Welcome to the Contrarians, where we are right and you are wrong. I'm Julio.
And I'm Alex. Here on the show, we rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. For the first half of each episode, Contrarians Corner, we trash the fresh red tomatoes and praise the rotten green splotches, making our case any way we can.
The aptly titled Real Talk serves as the second half of each episode. This is where we discuss our true feelings on the movie we're covering. For more information on our podcast and to browse past episodes, you can head over to our website, wearethecontrarians.com.
From there, you can also access our Patreon and merchandise, because capitalism.
If you enjoy our attempts at comedic film discussions, we encourage you to subscribe and leave us a review on whatever podcatcher you use.
If you'd like to reach out to us directly, that's what social media is for. You can find us on most platforms as @ContrarianPrime.
You can also see what we look like if you go to youtube.com/@ContrarianPrime, and you can contact us by email at wearethecontrarians@gmail.com.
I think that covers it.
Then it's time for the podcast. And we are recording for Contrarians Corner for She's Funny That Way, our final Bogdanofilm.
Comes to an end. Sadly, we've reached the end of the road with old P-Bog, at least for the main timeline here.
Yep.
The main feed. But hello and welcome back to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined as always by my Peruvian counterpart in the ever-present Battle of the Contrary.
It never ends.
To wrap up our series of Bogdanofilms here, it is She's Funny That Way, the 2015 Peter Bogdanovich installment, the theatrical release. Did you watch the director's cut, Julio?
Oh, God. Why am I surprised that there's a director's cut?
That's a half hour longer, by the way.
Are you kidding me? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it?
No, YouTube TV had this for free. A wonderful HD transfer for streaming as well. So credit to YouTube TV for that. But I'm looking it up right now. I don't even know where you can access it.
Commercials or no commercials on that one?
I have a YouTube subscription, YouTube TV subscription, so no commercials on that.
Nice.
Did you go to Tubi?
So I did Tubi. Also, wonderful transfer, but commercials. So
well, that's all right. It's not as bad as Pluto TV.
It is not. Must always be said. I'm sure the people at Pluto hate us. People at Tubi love us. All right. Well, if you're not fancy like Alex and you don't have a YouTube TV, Tubi's got your back, and it looks great. And sometimes those commercials come in at the right time to give you a breather, so you can, catch your breath after all the laughing. Because she's funny that way. Brief
Google search in regards to the director's cut looks like I'm going to have to do a bit more research, as is always the case with Peter Bogdanovich, because it looks like this cut had just resurfaced in the past few years, and so we'll bring that to our YouTube warm-up for this as part of the trivia section.
I foresee this is going to be my white whale for the remainder of 2024. Can't leave this hanging.
In a post-Midnight in Paris world, Peter Bogdanovich brought this to the forefront with Owen Wilson in the leading role. Going out, not with a bang, but a whimper, as we would expect nothing less at this point, with a budget of $10 million, a box office return of $6 million. A movie here at the end of his run, produced by none other than, we had Wes Anderson and Noah Baumbach credited as executive producers.
It's like he made it for you, Alex.
I know.
I couldn't believe the end credits.
In addition to the producers, also Louise Stratton is listed on there as, and she also co-wrote this along with Peter Bogdanovich, of course, his ex-wife, and a bit of an icky feeling surrounding that. We talked about that a little bit with our They All Laughed episode, as P-Bog had previously snogged the sister of Louise Stratton,
Dorothy Stratton. We talked about it on the Patreon feed when we did They All Laughed. The one thing that we didn't mention, I guess because we hadn't watched They All Laughed at the time, we were not familiar with the tangled web that P-Bog wove. Louise Stratton is in Illegally Yours, Alex, as an actress.
Yes.
Do you know who she is? Because we didn't call it out at the time. We didn't know who she was.
Which one is she?
She's a Canadian, eh?
Oh, yes. The one that's not Meryl Streep.
Exactly.
Yeah, the one that's like, is she concussed or high the whole time? I just know she like speaks in broken sentences.
Yeah. Well, I'm never going to watch Legally Yours again. But if I did, I would be the entire time, I'd be like, that's the woman that co-wrote She's Funny That Way. There is a future.
And produced it as well, even though I believe they had been Splitsville at this point. It looks like they divorced in 2001. So still had a working relationship going. And, I mean,
P-Bog and his exes. That's never stopped him.
It's been quite a journey in its own right, learning about his exploits. And, speaking of which, I think it's fitting that she's attached to this because this is a fitting final entry as some of the players we've come to know throughout this Bogdanofilm journey resurface here. And it's a good send-off, minus Lucy Punch being in it.
So you have beef with Lucy Punch? I used to, and then I guess somehow I got over it.
I forgot that you moved past that because that was my favorite. Because when we did Take Me Home Tonight, that was your one hang up on it. You're like, there's just too much Lucy Punch in this movie.
Yes.
So when she showed up in this, I was like, oh man, Julio's rolling his eyes somewhere right now.
I in the back of my head, I guess that still holds because I saw her, I was like, God damn it. And then the scene started and I was like, wait, no, I like her now. It's okay.
All right. Well, let's get to it. 45% on Rotten Tomatoes for Peter Bogdanovich's final film entry. What do they call it? The critical consensus. She's Funny That Way is an affectionate, talent-filled throwback to screwball comedies of old, which makes it even more frustrating that the laughs are disappointingly few and far between. Being that this is rotten, we'll be praising this here in the first half. We'll find what meat we can to sink our teeth into. Julio, which quotes did you pull for us?
I didn't even know he did theater anymore since those movies. What's when he had like the pink fluffy sleeves and the trained bumblebee in his belt buckle?
Red Bee Man.
Yeah.
Man, the meat is plentiful in this movie. And so are the quotes.
Specifically white meat.
Yes. Okay, we're going to start with Zach Holwadell from Under the Radar, who says, Bogdanovich leaves the funny out of She's Funny That Way, producing instead a surprisingly dull 90 minutes. I think that makes sense, Alex. We're used to funny the other way. The 30s, 40s, 50s, screwball comedies, that's a certain way. But this is different. Imogen Poots is not funny that way. She's funny this way. Really, it should have been called She's Funny This Way. Who titled this?
Her fucking Queen's accent is definitely funny some way.
The best way. Are you glad that Imogen Poots from other movies? Because I am, because I could tell now that this was a put-on accent and it made it so delightful.
I watched this movie years ago, and I think this was my first exposure to her, and I've since come to be a huge fan of Art of Self-Defense, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, and so I'm glad that I have circling back to this movie all these years later. I'm glad I have more of an idea of what she is as an actress.
Yeah, Green Room, I think, was the first time I saw her in anything, and she's really good in that. Not Green Book, although she would have made the movie better.
I forgot she was in the Colin Farrell Fright Night, bit of an underrated movie. I've only seen that once, though.
Right. Yeah, she's the girlfriend, right? She's there with Scotty.
Scotty? Oh, yeah. Anton Yelkin.
Anton Yelkin. There we go. Anyway, let's move on to a musician, Rob Thomas, for Madison Movie. He says, P-Bog, you're so smooth. And then he says, to call this comedy featherweight should be an insult to the substantiveness of feathers. Do you think, obviously, like hindsight is 2020, but do you think all these people feel a little bit like assholes for being so mean about this guy's last movie? Like at the time, obviously, they don't know it's his last movie. They're like, whatever. We're just going to put the snark on and just talk shit about this beloved filmmaker's latest effort. But then it comes out that, oh, well, you know what? That was the last one he did. So maybe you could have cut him some slack.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have your integrity is like, you can't move the goalposts. You got to get out your little quips where you can,
I know, but this seems unnecessarily mean for a movie starring all these talented people, directed by a talented director.
Well, I think we've found, if nothing else, there are some critics that really enjoyed the idea of being extremely snarky about Peter Bogdanovich's films.
Absolutely. Next, Leah Greenblatt from Entertainment Weekly says, I'll remind you, the title is She's Funny That Way. So she says, she's pretty much a turkey, actually. And even a stacked cast, Jennifer Aniston, Owen Wilson, Rhys Ifans, Catherine Hahn, Will Forte, can't rescue director Peter Bogdanovich's overcooked giblets. It's a giblet, Alex. It's
Giblets.
It's like giblets.
Yeah, it's part of the innards of a turkey. That's...
Oh, so she brought it all around.
Yeah. It's that's Phil Dunphy. One of my favorite philosophies is a first impression is really it's basically that he starts it as that expression of you have to make a good first impression. I suggest Julia Childs, save the giblets. That's what he does. And then of course he makes that Ty Burrell just affable face into the camera, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's people use them to make stock or broth and shit, I think, and some people cook them and eat them, but not for me. So this one, who's the reviewer on this?
Leah Greenblatt.
Yeah, I think she was just hungry when she made this, or when was the release date on this? August. So wasn't
She's already thinking of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, she was kind of already in the back of her mind thinking of what she was going to make.
I don't know how your mind jumps to Leah Greenblatt's. That is the wonderful Imogen puts. You just compare it to a turkey. Really? Giblets on top of that. I don't get it. Next, Ray Pride from New City says, they all yawned. Alex, they're just going nuts with the references here.
Damn.
They all yawned. Strains at Screwball. It's a pale pastiche of a pasticheur's pastiche. I was hoping against hope that one or even several of the characters could advance the physical comedy by dropping dead on the spot. What the fuck?
Jesus. I mean, they're annoying, entitled rich white people, but God, come on now.
Again, he must feel like a little bit of an asshole, I think. These are just people that I think are going too far. And then we're going to close with Todd Jorgensen from Cinemalogue, who says, aside from a sprinkling of salty language and a few shots of people on cell phones, it practically could go into immediate rotation on Turner Classic Movies. That is not a bad thing, Alex. Turner Classic Movies has some bangers. That's the whole point. That's what they're classics.
Yeah, I was confused about how this is a negative review.
Yeah, I mean, I know what he's saying is this feels like an old movie, but I think that he's just betraying his bias. So many old movies are good. The ones that we still remember are memorable because they're good. And that's the kind of movies that P-Bog likes, as we've learned. So thank you for proving our point ahead of time, Todd. It's much appreciated. Unlike how you guys didn't appreciate She's Funny That Way. I don't know how she does it, Alex. That's what I kept thinking of.
I also kind of think part of it is at this point in his career, it's critics may have seen Peter Bogdanovich as an easy target. And so when he made something that wasn't, when he didn't make The Last Picture Show again, they were like, fuck this. So more surprising is the 45% score on Rotten Tomatoes that is based off 99 critical reviews. The audience score based on over 5,000 reviews is at 35%. So it's even lower. So folks didn't like this.
I don't understand that part.
Well,
what is it? Why? I thought people like these actors, white and entitled as they may be.
I have thoughts that we'll get to in real talk about why this was probably not received well in its time. But we're not in its time. We're in 2024 now, and it's time to go to Broadway.
I believe in happy endings, and it's the only thing that's ever made sense to me.
Broadway director Arnold Albertson, under the alias Derek, hires Glowstick, a call girl whose real name is Izzy Finkelstein, despite Arnold being married with 2 children. Izzy dreams of becoming an actress, and Derek offers her $30,000 to quit being a call girl and pursue her true goal. She is not the first escort he has done this for. Lead actor Seth Gilbert sees Arnold kissing Izzy as she leaves his hotel room. So this is what kind of kicks us off. Julio, the way this movie is presented to us is it's an interview that's taking place with Imogen Poots, which now I guess we've established she's a successful actress, and she's recounting a story. She does say a chance encounter can change everything, and it's 4 years ago that we go to. And we pretty much stay there the entire movie. The timeline got confusing at the end because it was 2 months later. It was wait, from when she's talking or from when this all happened? Yeah. But this movie's told in the past perspective. Who is the gal that's interviewing her?
Ileana Douglas, and you're like, where do I know her from? And I would say the 90s / early 2000s, probably.
Yeah, she has a very familiar face.
Have you seen Scorsese's remake of Cape Fear?
Long ago. It's been a while.
She is one of De Niro's victims. I think that's the most high profile thing that I can think of. But she was kind of I haven't seen her in forever in a movie, but for a while she would pop up in like indies and just kind of small budget comedies. She showed up here and we're like, that's a familiar face. And interviewing what at the time might have been sort of a fresh face. I mean, Imogen Poots she had a few movies under her belt, right? When this came out. It wasn't like Bogdanovich discovering her, like unveiling her for the world.
Yeah.
But I think it maybe unlocked the comedy. Like, have you tried an accent? Like a New Yorker accent? That was not New York.
Yeah, she laid it on thick and heavy. Seinfeld is what I'm. Ileana Douglas. I remember.
Let me guess. She dates Jerry.
She's in the last season. I can't remember her exact story, but yeah, I remember. Her face sticks out as one of the guest stars or one of the guest appearances on Seinfeld. So Imogen Poots is our actress here. Derek or Arnold Owen Wilson playing the lead here. Pretty much just doing Gil Penter again from.
Oh, this dude's way sleazier.
I kid. He's a bit of a scumbag here. In that movie, of course, he's the only likable person in his surroundings, and in this, I think he kind of brings it on himself.
But he seems likable at first. So I completely understand.
Of course.
Right. It's Owen Wilson, but also at first you don't realize that he's cheating on his wife. And also you don't realize that the wife is, even after you realize, okay, he's married, you're like, oh, well, it might be one of those unhappy marriages or open marriages, whatever. But then eventually you discover he's married to Catherine Hahn. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's I can't remember what movie that's from. It's like, you have to have known this is a loveless marriage. No, I was not aware of that. That's kind of the situation here of they don't seem unhappy. He's just a bit of a narcissist. And yeah, he has a penchant for paying off call girls to start a new life for themselves, presumably after he has sex with them, because that's what he does with Imogen Poots here.
Yes. He's a very detail-oriented lover, we learn.
That's true.
What does that mean? Have you ever gotten that compliment, Alex?
Not in so many words, no. Julio, did you take note of his his pickup line here? The line that he provides to, we find out all the women that he swoons.
Yes, the motif.
Yes.
As it were. Something about squirrels and nuts, right? Like, so the whole thing is you should do what makes you happy. Your place in the world is where you are happy, and if you're happy. You know, most people like to feed nuts to squirrels, but if you're happy feeding the squirrels to the nuts, then feed the squirrels to the nuts. Bravo.
Yeah, but we find out at the end that this is like a Milli Vanilli. It's not even his work. He's just
it's a fraud.
Lip syncing. But all these women fall for it. It comes up over and over again.
It starts with Catherine Hahn, and then all the way down the line, we get a bunch of very fun 90s / 2000s cameos from other actresses that fell for it. Before we move on, Alex, because this movie opens with a title card that basically tells us, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Mm-hmm. And I think that is an amazing disclaimer to put in front of your movie. And I think that that's basically after that, if you read that and then you get angry when some stuff doesn't quite square out, then that's on you. Because Bogdanovich was very clear from the very beginning that this story, at the very least, and in a way, most of his stories that he tells, you know, they can be a little whimsical at times for the sake of comedy. And that's the whole point. You know, if you need to get a laugh and you need to like twist the facts around a little bit to get that laugh, then that's what you do. And I felt that Ileana Douglas interviewer was kind of a stand-in for the people like those green splotches that we were reading just like a few minutes ago, right? The analytical ones that are just like overthinking what is a very simple, very straightforward Peter Bogdanovich comedy. This is not The Last Picture Show, so don't analyze it like it's The Last Picture Show. Should be, don't let my filmography get in the way of a good comedy. just take it as it is. But, you know, because early on, Imogen Poots is talking about, is it Lana Turner? She's talking about how some big star got discovered, and then Ileana Douglas goes, oh, you know, that's not what happened. That's just what they tell the tourists. And, you know, she's just like raiding her parade. Really, really fun at parties, Ileana Douglas. But that's the whole point, you know, that's fine if this is a story that we're being told. Like if we are the tourists and this is a story they're telling the tourists, just roll with it. Like Imogen Poots says, like it's more magical the other way. It's more magical, the more whimsical. I've seen some critics saying that this story doesn't make sense, that it's just too silly or too contrived. It's like, it's a comedy. Mm-hmm. it's don't analyze it with the same lenses that you use for Bogdanovich's serious movies. This is something else.
Arnold, don't you think we should do the intimate scene with me?
No. We're going to do the scene with the two women.
And Seth Gilbert here, our lead actor. This is the Lizard, right?
It is the Lizard, Alex. I feel like I owe it to him to eventually fade out the Lizard joke, and now the most modern references he's in the Game of Thrones spinoff. He's one of the big characters in the House of the Dragon, and he's really good in it. He is nowhere near as horny as he is in this movie, but he's good. Like Rhys Ifans, I have to show you some respect. You've overcome your kind of laughable performance as the Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you survived it. You made it through to the next level. Or maybe I'll stick with the Lizard because everybody's watched that. And I don't know if anybody will recognize him if I said, "Oh, but this is the Hand from House of the Dragon." Is this his Contrarians debut?
Rhys Ifans has. I mean, we've talked about the Lizard a lot.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like we're referencing him so often that he must have popped up as an actual character in a movie.
No, we both like the 5-year engagement, but we never covered that on here. Might be.
He usually plays those characters, though. This type of character, he's very duplicitous, and
here is the ire of women worldwide.
I don't think that he is a man. By the way, later on at some point, Owen Wilson describes himself as a feminist. And I was like, oh my God. That's hilarious. But no, Rhys Ifans is out for himself. I mean, I guess casually on the side, he happens to be targeting
Catherine Hahn.
Man. But for the most part, he just wants to. He's got the hots for Catherine Hahn. That's really what drives him.
And specifically in this movie, I get that, man.
Dude.
She's also The Goods. I know you've never seen that, but she's quite a looker in that movie as well.
Look, even Private Lives. That was it, right? Private Lives, the Paul Giamatti movie. Even then, when she was just baby crazy, and her main focus was...
she goes full frontal in that movie. Well, not full frontal. She just goes bottomless, right? She just has full vag out. And before I forget, one of the characters we're introduced here, making her return to the Contrarians, is Debbie Mazar, who plays like the head mistress at the escort service that Imogen Poots works for. So
the beloved 90s actress, Debbie Mazar.
Back in New York City, no less. 200 cigarettes to Peter Bogdanovich.
A few stops along the way. Entourage, right? That was before this, the Entourage movie.
Okay, so this, Entourage, 200 cigarettes, Empire Records. She's, at this point, I think we can call her a Contrarians regular.
Yeah, racking up those points on our...
And whenever we inevitably cover Batman Forever 2, that'll be her 5-timers. No. She was in Bullets Over Broadway, so she has been on here 5 times.
She gets the jacket.
She does. And she was in Goodfellas, too, for fuck's sake. So, God... Debbie Mazar, come and take your award.
She's listening to this episode right now, appalled that just now we're realizing how often she's been on the show. To be fair, she's like the Lizard. We reference her all the time, even when she's not on a movie we're covering.
She is a great example of like a seasoned actor in the sense of does her job so well that she blends in the background seamlessly. We talk about this all the time. If someone's good, you kind of it's easy to forget, but if someone's bad, it really sticks out. So the compliment to her is that we've never had like a movie we've covered where she stuck out as like a bad part of it. She's just good at her job, and she does the same thing here.
That's what we call her by her name. Rhys Ifans, we call him the Lizard.
Debbie Mazar is Debbie Mazar.
Yeah.
And in this case, she does a good job acting, and in the movie, in the escort service she runs, and we'll find out why that is here in a little bit. Not headmistress, madam. That's what I always get the verbiage wrong when it comes to that profession, and so I want to make sure I get that correct there.
Headmistress is what you call her in England.
Thank you. Arnold's wife, Delta Simmons, this is Catherine Hahn, is the star of a new play, A Grecian Evening. Izzy keeps her promise to Derek and shows up to audition for a part in the play as a call girl, unaware that Derek Arnold is the director. Impressed, playwright Joshua Fleet, this is MacGruber, Will Forte, becomes attracted to Izzy and invites her out to dinner, despite the fact that he is dating Jane Claremont. This is Jennifer Aniston, of all people, who happens to be Izzy's therapist. Keep up, folks. It's a screwball.
It's so much easier to keep up when you know the names. I can't believe that you're like MacGruber. It's Nebraska's Will Forte. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, Judge Pendergast is another client of Izzy's and also a patient of Jane. He is obsessed with Izzy and hires private investigator Harold Fleet, who happens to be Joshua's father, to follow her. And see, it's all coming together here. After the auditions, everyone ends up at the same Italian restaurant. Harold sees Izzy with his son Joshua. Jane arrives with her client Judge Pendergast, who both see Joshua and Izzy. Jane punches Joshua in the face and storms out of the restaurant, quickly pursued by Judge Pendergast. Izzy sees Arnold and tries to escape out the bathroom window, but Delta catches her and brings her back into the restaurant. Izzy's cover is almost blown when Seth arrives with a co-worker of Izzy's. Julio, I think artistically the movie, its greatest success here is the Italian restaurant scene. And did you catch it's literally a blink and you miss it, but did you catch who the waitress is in this scene?
Yep, because I was waiting for it. I kind of, this maybe the one problem with going back or blind into movies is that when I try to give us the preview of what's coming up, I end up saying really stupid shit like, oh, and she's funny that way. It's a reunion of Peter Bogdanovich and Tatum O'Neal. Okay, she's in the movie for like 30 seconds, gets maybe 2 lines. I don't think she even gets a close-up. So, sorry, I completely blew the market in there. This is not...
There's a couple other big cameos, though, that you didn't... spill the beans on yet.
Yeah, but what I mean is like she doesn't play a character here. She's just there as the waiter. Doesn't even get a joke.
It's a very
niche chainsaw.
It's a cameo, like really what it is. Like it's Where's Waldo type thing. It's like, it's literally the Leo, the point at the screen, like, hey, it's Tatum O'Neal.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that was Tatum O'Neal, you would just think it's like an extra that they just hired like from a casting call.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of inside jokes throughout this movie that are just made for us. And us, I mean, those of us who have been following Bogdanovich's career. In
those who have crammed
months.
his entire career into the past few months.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if somebody who watched, Paper Moon and Nickelodeon back in the day, if they would catch this cameo. As it happens in this one.
May I offer you some water?
No.
Scotch and soda?
Maybe.
Oh, I'll look into it.
And speaking of chainsaws here, or our connections to our Bogdana history at this point, Bogdana canon, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention who plays Izzy's mother, and that is Sybil Shepherd, who plays Nettie Patterson. Izzy's mom and her dad played by Richard Lewis, which I believe was his last film before he passed.
Really?
But Sybil Shepherd here, again, if you didn't know who this was, it would be kind of just an actress. Man, she still has it, though. I was watching, so it's like, damn, dude, get Imogen Poots out of there. Let's talk about her mom.
She gets more to do than Tatum O'Neal. I mean, she gets a few lines.
Yeah, she has lines.
Yeah, she gets a few laughs. She's got a character, right? She's the New Yorker mom that's just kind of loud about everything, and then
we find out in the end, both her mom and dad, we find out in the end, are professional wrestling fans.
Yes, I was wondering if I missed the setup for that. And then I realized, no, I think that it's just that P-Bog knows that wrestling is an easy punchline that you can go to.
Yes, extremely easy. In those 3 seconds, it shows the level of intelligence that you're dealing with.
But, speaking of P-Bog getting along with his exes, right? Like all these years, it is such... Look, and I was going to save this question for real talk, but I kind of like tease it out here. Like, it almost makes you feel like he knew it was his last movie. Because the way that he brings some things full circle, and I mean, Sybil Shepherd, having a small character here, it's a big deal, right? Like, she was one of the breakthroughs in the Last Picture Show. And now, all these years later, through the ups and downs, she's back, and she's playing a fun character, and you walk away from it thinking that was nice. Honestly, the one thing where I think that the casting missed, and I don't know if it was just how it didn't come to happen. P-Bog was a pretty smart guy, so I can't believe that it didn't occur to him. How did he not get Ben Gazzara to play the private investigator?
That would have been fantastic.
Right? Like, from the moment that they show the private investigator getting the call on his office, it was like, oh my, it's like they all laughed. It's a setup. Man, any of those guys, but of course, Gazzara would have been perfect.
I thought this was the case. This is why I went silent. It's because Ben Gazzara was dead by that point.
Oh, no. Man. That's why I said Gazzara and not Ritter. Turns out that I overshot it anyway.
Really overshot it there. Yeah, I thought I remember reading that when I was doing some research for St. Jack, but yeah, he passed away in 2012. So,
Jesus Christ, I thought he was still alive.
Nope.
Well, that explains why they didn't put him in the Roadhouse remake.
The Thailand mob finally caught up to him.
I think the CIA caught up to him. Watch St. Jack and listen to our Patreon episode to get the joke. So Jennifer Aniston, Alex, coming back triumphantly after the Friends Extravaganza, and as I was watching her performance here, I thought, man, we had a great time talking about He's Just Not That Into You, but it feels like this should have been the Jennifer Aniston movie we covered for her Friends Extravaganza chapter.
It's definitely a departure from Rachel.
Yep. A good. I mean, this is 2014, so she was already done with Friends. It was on to the next stage of her career, and I think she does really well at playing against type, I guess. And she's mean. She's the worst therapist in the world, and she kept making me laugh. Do you like her in Horrible Bosses?
I've only seen that the one time, and I remember thinking she was pretty funny. But she's kind of like a sexual deviant in that. Here, she's just a very terse, borderline mean woman. Yeah.
There is an extra level of comedy when you have an actress with a very established image like Jennifer Aniston playing against that image. And so whether that is her being an nymphomaniac in Horrible Bosses or her being this horrible therapist that is very impatient with her patients and just completely unprofessional and so on. She has some of the biggest laughs in the movie for me. And the fact that she's dating Will Forte, who is all mild-mannered and just this playwright.
Definitely a departure for Will. This is like in the vein of Nebraska, this is definitely a departure from what we're used to for Will Forte. His comedy is a lot of the anti-Julio stuff of just kind of being very loud and as over the top as possible. But between this and Nebraska, I mean, he's flexing that motherfucker can act.
I obviously, because I don't gravitate towards his usual type of comedy, I haven't seen much of that. So in my mind, when you say Will Forte, I think of Nebraska. I wasn't kidding. And now I'll think of this. Funnily enough, for me, Will Forte is a very calm and collected guy. MacGruber seems like an outlier.
Reese Ifans does nail one of the more memorable lines for me in the movie here at the conclusion of the Italian restaurant scene, where he just kind of points at Owen Wilson and not whispers, but you have to pay attention. He goes, "Confusion reigns," because the whole situation. There's lust in the air, and it's so obvious that he's gunning for Catherine Hahn, and I think Arnold can see it, but he's just trying to be willfully blind to it.
Confusion reigns.
Although Arnold is initially unsure as he is given the role. While shopping, Delta discovers that Arnold had been hiring escorts when Margie, another former escort Arnold helped, thanks him profusely and indiscreetly. So a tad earlier in the movie, a gal in the airport runs up to Owen Wilson and thanks him for, we find out this is what he does with escorts and gives them money and uses the squirrel to the nuts line. And the gal here, Margie, is
Jennifer Esposito.
Another one of the, that girl.
Yep.
Spin City, though, I think she had like a leading role in that show, and that's what comes to mind for me. She was also in Crash, right?
I don't remember her in Crash.
Not the Cronenberg.
I know that. I'm assuming you were talking about the ensemble where half of Hollywood was there. No, I'm also a Spin City person, and I think she's in Summer of Sam, the Spike Lee movie. Because I remember thinking, oh, from Spin City to a big-time filmmaker.
So she thanks him, and as Delta's in the changing room trying on a new piece of clothing, she hears the squirrel to the nuts line and comes running out, and the fucking squirrel to the nuts, and she's blown his cover now. She knows what's happening, and Margie, of course, doesn't mean to cause this blow up, but it leads to Delta storming out. Joshua learns about Izzy when Judge Pendergast confronts the two of them while they are on a date. She runs off before he can talk to her. Arnold invites Izzy back to his hotel room to talk. Delta turns to Seth, who has long professed his love for her for comfort, but finds another call girl hiding in his bathroom. She then storms into Arnold's room only to find Izzy hiding in his bathroom. So, as I mentioned, she storms out with the suit or the coat that she was trying on. Alarms go off. Everything's quelled at the location there at Barney's, I think is what they called it, as Owen Wilson tells him I'll pay for it. But she goes with Seth to one of his public appearances for his new cologne. And when she walks into that store, I can't remember which store it was, but their alarm system goes off.
I think it's Macy's.
Macy's. And then who apprehends her? Who's the cop that we have here, Julio?
Michael Shannon.
It is Zod himself.
It's not even called attention to. Like, there's two cops. The other one is some dude I've never seen before. So they just gave cop number 2 to Michael Shannon in 2014.
It's pretty incredible because he just does the Michael Shannon thing of, okay, the delivery. And as you said, the attention is not drawn to him. It just, it took me a second. Like I said, I had seen this before. I was like, wait, that's Michael Shannon. And he gets a few good lines, and he has her like off her feet, and she goes, put me down. He goes, all right, I'll put you down. You're an idiot.
Yeah, he's great. I forgot to call him out earlier, Alex. The judge, Judge Pendergast, he has been in the Contrarians before, and he was the one I was like, I know I've seen this face before. Obviously, he's a character actor. He's in a gazillion movies, but as far as Contrarians, he's part of a very important part of Contrarians history.
Oh,
do you recognize him from anything?
Not off the top of my head, no.
He is Santa Claus in Christmas with the Cranks.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to remember that.
Speaking of coming full circle.
Well, let's not hold it against him,
Obviously, P-Bog didn't. Like, come on in. Water's warm.
The scene here, too, where she is escorted away by the police, there's a cardboard cutout of Reese Ifans for his cologne. And, I've talked about this, that props that are made for movies and shit like that, someone has that. Someone has that cardboard cutout.
It's probably Reese Ifans.
Yeah, looking all seductive and sexy, advertising cologne. And I just love the idea of that being made and someone just, folding it up and taking it home after shooting.
The slogan is smells like Seth.
The run that Michael Shannon was on here, I looked it up, and his previous entry was again a cameo, and They Came Together, the David Wayne, Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler guided vehicle. He has a really funny cameo in that too. And then after She's Funny That Way, he did 99 Homes, which he is a bad guy in that movie.
Take Shelter was, because I thought Take Shelter was 2014. Is it 2012 instead?
2011.
Oh, God. Okay. But whatever the case, he already made Take Shelter.
Yes. Oh, he was already Michael Shannon at this point. He had his Oscar nom for Revolutionary Road. He had already been Zod. He was the bad guy in Premium Rush with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So he was an established player in Hollywood.
The DVD special features feature Michael Shannon's audition for She's Funny That Way.
The call girl in Reese Ifans' room during this sequence is the aforementioned Lucy Punch. She's not around long enough to really become bothersome.
Okay, she makes an impression because she is trying to out-accent Imogen Poots.
It's true. Well, she's new to America, so she speaks in kind of fragmented sentences.
It's funny. I don't know why the over-the-top accent can go either way, right? Like you can overdo it to the point where it's just really annoying, or or you can just hit the sweet spot like Lucy Punch does here, where it's just funny. And I think that it can't just be the accent. It has to be everything surrounding the accent. So here, Rhys Ifans is desperately trying to get her out of the room because he knows that Catherine Hahn have finally agreed to hook up with him. And so she's on her way. And obviously he couldn't cancel the appointment with Lucy Punch. So he's trying to get her out, but she won't get out until she gets a hold of Debbie Mazar on the phone. And Debbie Mazar says it's okay for her to leave. And so that franticness of Rhys Ifans trying to push her out and Lucy Punch not understanding the urgency of what's happening because she doesn't speak English very well. And it all ends up with her in the shower, just hiding there. That's just funny. So I think the lesson is, an outrageous accent alone is not going to make it funny. But if you use that as part of a whole collage of funny elements, then that's when it works.
It's my fault. I supposed to go 1329. Wrong room. Thanks for better, mister.
Also, Alex, I don't remember. I know that the climatic moment in Nebraska is Will Forte punching a dude. I don't remember how old that person is, but is that person as old as Judge Pendergast in that scene where he gets punched at the museum?
Is it Stacy Keach that he punches?
Maybe. It's like the asshole that's been picking on his dad, I think.
Yeah. No, the gentleman he punches here is old.
Still, it just made me think, man, Will Forte has like a little niche there, punching out older men that are harassing people that he loves.
Especially with artistic directors.
Yep.
Everyone shows up to the first table read the next day despite the tension. Delta makes a point of kissing Seth passionately while rehearsing. Izzy's father shows up looking for the men who paid to have sex with his daughter. Jane shows up to cause a scene and identifies Judge Pendergast, Arnold, and Joshua as Izzy's clients. During the commotion, Seth and Jane catch each other's eyes. This is like a good version of the end of Crazy Stupid Love. Yes, it is. I was because
there's a few punches thrown by the time that it's all over. I'm glad you mentioned that there is 30 minutes of this movie that's on a director's cut because it didn't bother me, right? Like this movie's so crazy, so wild, so funny in the way it connects things that when Sybil Shepherd and Richard Lewis show up out of nowhere at the rehearsal, and also when Jennifer Aniston shows up, and then the detective shows up, everybody showing up at this climatic rehearsal. I just accepted it. I was like, I guess they are here because they're here and because it's funny, right? But I bet you that those 30 minutes include scenes that explain exactly how they got there. Because the parents in particular, Sybil Shepherd and Richard Lewis, we've never seen them hint at the fact that they would be following their daughter to see what's going on. So I'm glad to hear that there's some fleshing out of those plot threads because I like them. I mean, I'll watch those extra 30 minutes, especially if they're as funny as what ended up on screen. But yeah, you're correct. This is that scene that Crazy Stupid Love cannot execute, and obviously P-Bog does here, where you bring everybody together for a big blow up where everything is exposed. Like what hasn't been exposed yet is exposed here. Jennifer Aniston continuing her actions as the worst therapist in history, just absolutely spills the beans on her clients. Just explain how everybody's connected to everybody. Richard Lewis starts punching people. It's fun. It's slapstick. It's one of those things that good old comedies used to do well before modern filmmakers started letting people improvise and things ran long. It was like, nope, let's just resolve everything with violence.
There's a great reference too when Catherine Hahn's just sucking face with Seth here, where Owen Wilson's like, all right, cut. What is this, Caligula? Am I just supposed to watch this?
Dude, that play that they're rehearsing is well written. Like usually you just put some throwaway nonsense there, but they actually, because we get to see a big chunk of the first scene of the play between Catherine Hahn and Rhys Ifans. And I mean, it's funny because it seems to somewhat address the real life of the Owen Wilson character, because she is recriminating him for sleeping with other women and so on. But also, it's not just, usually you will see just something really campy on stage because it really doesn't matter, right? It's just like an excuse for the actors to do something in that scene. But here, I feel like they really wrote like an actual play that was taken seriously and then they put it up on stage. And it's cool because it keeps cutting back to the reactions from Will Forte and Imogen Poots, everybody watching from the orchestra pit. And even though there's tension because of all the awkwardness between everybody involved, they're also kind of enjoying the performance because Catherine Hahn and Rhys Ifans are not hamming it up. They're actually acting, like they're really rehearsing. So that's pretty cool. It reminded me of Noises Off a couple episodes ago, or I guess a couple of Bogdanofilms ago, when during that first act, every now and then P-Bog would cut to Michael Caine laughing at something funny that the actors were doing on stage. I was like, yeah, it's kind of like the same thing. And that led me to think, Michael Caine's director, what's his name? Lloyd. Lloyd would have probably handled this whole production with a little more finesse than Owen Wilson. I mean, it's older, right? So he knows he has a few more tricks up his sleeve, but things kind of get out of control for Owen Wilson here. And I think Michael Caine would probably have been better at keeping everything together.
Yeah, Owen Wilson is at his wit's end at one point, though, when the dogs are running around barking. He's like, we're in a goddamn rehearsal right now. So as I mentioned earlier, we speed up the time a little bit. So it's no longer 4 years ago. It's 3 years and 10 months because we get the 2 months later, the play is going to open. And it opens to great acclaim. In an interview sometime later, Izzy says that it closed in a week because wives from Long Island are not interested in seeing a play about call girls.
Dude, is that P-Bog commenting on his previous failures, his previous bombs?
That's a fair comment. I mean, he is self-referential. There's no doubt about that. But fortunately for her, she caught the attention of a man from Hollywood and has achieved success as a film actress since then.
We do that thing, Alex, that they did in Noises Off to great effect, where we get to see the last few moments of the play. We've seen how it started in the rehearsal. Now we see the ending, and Imogen Poots is going up some spiral staircase, and it just seems all very, they're kind of like, how the fuck did we get here? And then the audience goes, sardines.
And then we get to kind of the where are they now? And we're seeing happenings from the opening night party they have. And possibly the biggest punchline of the movie for me is when Debbie Mazar brings her group of call girls in basically to celebrate with Izzy, I believe is the intent. And then she sees Owen Wilson. She goes, oh my God, and comes over and says, squirrel to the nuts. She's like, you gave me so much hope and I have started the best escort service in New York. It's, you think that joke's kind of done. And even Catherine Hahn says, I thought that was the last one. And it's really funny. Just the way her eyes light up and she runs over to him and he's like, oh God.
There's no way that's the biggest punchline, Alex. The biggest punchline is to come in a couple scenes later.
Well, yes, but I was saving the surprise. So she's an accomplished actress now, Izzy, that is. She and Joshua broke up, and the interviewer asks, well, who are you dating now? And she's like, well, I have a bit of a mentor. And then Ilena Douglas references again Squirrel to the Nuts, and then you hear a familiar voice that you can't quite place it go,
you're quoting Clooney Brown now?
Oh, what?
That Squirrels and Nuts line is from Lubitsch's Clooney Brown. Hey, Joe.
And then enter Quentin Tarantino, actor Quentin Tarantino, who delivers his lines at a pace that would, those speedometers on the street that tell you to slow down. If his rate of talking would break one of those, it would explode because he is just shooting through his lines so fast. And, I'm sure he wrote his lines too, because they're going to some, old school triple feature. And he's like, we need to go right now. And
it's a Sonny Shiba triple feature. Sonny Shiba from
Kill
Bill, right?
There you go. Yeah. It is the most Quentin Tarantino 30 seconds you will ever see. Just his erratic movements, how fast he talks, and the references that he gets in.
Alex, does this outdo the Tarantino cameo in Muppets Wizard of Oz?
No, but I don't think we need to,
compare them.
They can both exist in their own universes, and here it's an amazing punchline for several reasons. But one, just the idea that, because I think he's supposed to be Quentin Tarantino, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he has to be. Like the Sonny Shiba reference, the fact that when she's talking about him, she makes it sound like somebody that would be Tarantino, right? And honestly, okay, level with me. Did you think it was going to be Peter Bogdanovich coming in as the mentor? Because I thought that was, we were building up to that.
That would have been too much, dude.
But it would have made sense, right? Because she's talking about
Well, we do get a Peter Bogdanovich appearance, but it's like a much more satisfying Inception type thing.
I agree. But I was, the way that she was talking about her mentor, I was like, that would fit P-Bog. But you're right, that would have been too much. So he went a step sideways and got the man that has used his voice in at least 2 of his movies, I guess, as a DJ. Like, went, it's time to pay me back. I'm sure Tarantino had a blast doing that.
No joke, man. Yeah, she's now dating Quentin Tarantino. All right, so yeah, she's now dating Quentin Tarantino. Seth and Jane are still dating. Judge Pendergast was arrested for solicitation. His wife is now dating Harold Fleet.
That's the
the PI
detective. Yeah. Not Benghazzar.
And Arnold now works for a charity giving large sums of money to women's causes. So it's a happy ending.
It is.
And then the credits hit, and we get more to it. That's kind of explained in the credits. Like I said, we get a shot of Sybil Shepherd and Richard Lewis at a wrestling event, and it's obviously not. There's not like the WWF logo anywhere, but like everyone in the crowd is just wearing a shirt that says Raw. And it's like, all right, it's a Monday night here in New York, maybe at the Manhattan Center. They're having a good time, and then we get the reveal of Pendergast's wife dating Harold, in that they're sitting together eating breakfast watching The Sopranos on TV, and it of course is during a scene in which Lorraine Bracco is at therapy, and who appears on the screen but Peter Bogdanovich in one of his acting roles. Boom.
Alex, tell me that he didn't know this was his last movie. That feels unusual for him. Having seen all his filmography, that's not what I would expect from a director, other than somebody that's kind of saying goodbye. It was like he didn't know if this was gonna be a big hit or what, but it just, that seems like a very final punctuation at the end of his career. It's almost eerie when I saw it.
He would have been, I guess, like 74, 75 when he was making this movie. So yeah, he was up there. I can't imagine the will was there to make another big one. So there's a lot more winking in this than any other movie of his. Yeah.
As in, like, you know what? It's the last one you're going to make. You're right. I mean, I'm not saying that he thought that he was dying or anything. I'm just saying that he must have thought, I don't really have it in me to do another one. Like, making movies is exhausting. I'm not Marty Scorsese. So just going to do one more with a new generation of actors, bring some of the older generation in, finally get Tarantino in front of the camera in one of my movies. And then that's it. This is it as far as Peter Bogdanovich film features. And he even has, we didn't cover it, there's no way of really like making fun of it, I guess, but he has Imogen Poots deliver a speech like those speeches are in his previous movies, where an Oscar clip where she's just talking about, she's quoting a movie, I'm assuming, right? Like it's a quote that she goes on about things that she believes in. And she just basically tells Liliana Douglas to calm down. I'm going to tell you what makes me happy. And, she just goes on. It was like beautifully delivered. And it's a very much Bogdanovich moment. It's just her with the camera on her. Dude, it's just a funny, fluffy movie with no aspirations other than being a funny, fluffy movie. And those, as we like to say here in the Contrarians, like we don't make that anymore, at least not with any sort of notoriety. Here was like a legendary director doing it one more time, and then you read those quotes of people exasperated that he's not doing another Last Picture Show. It's like, dude, just calm down. I guess we can go to real talk now before everything else starts bleeding through.
All right. And with that, Quentin Tarantino shows up. We get an extremely meta Peter Bogdanovich cameo and Sybil Shepherd watching professional wrestling. So it brings to an end Peter Bogdanovich's final film and our final entry here on the main feed for the Bogdanofilm series. So Julio, one last time with our friend P-Bog. Let's move along to Real Talk.
Let's do it.